Hello students, very good morning. Welcome to English class. Today we are all going to learn part 3 of Nelson Mandela A Long Walk to Freedom. So before going through the lesson, let us recap the previous part. So Nelson Mandela said that this equal and free country was a result of sacrifices of countless other men and women who have fought all their lives for the freedom of the country. He wished that if he could thank them all, but unfortunately they did not live to see the result of their courage. Nelson Mandela gathered his courage and power from all these people and thus wishes to make them proud. He mentioned that this hard time had its negative impacts, but it also exposed a lot of strong and courageous men who stood up and raised their voice. Thus it required that level of unjust treatment to produce such great heroes. He says, South Africa is rich in minerals and gems, but its greatest strength lies in its people. Nelson Mandela gained his strength to stand against the wrong from all the great nationalists he mentioned. Those men he mentioned there in the lesson, those 6 people and other many people who have even risked their lives for freedom and tolerated ill treatment, but never stopped fighting. Tolerated ill treatment but never stopped fighting. He learned that courage did not mean the absence of fear, but the ability to overcome fear. The man who overcomes his fear is called brave. Exactly. Wonderful sentence this is. Now let us go through part 3. Please follow the text while I am reading. Note down the meanings of the new vocabulary. Right. Part 3. Part 3. Yes. In life, every man has twin obligations. Obligations to his family, to his parents, to his wife and children. And he has an obligation to his people, his community, his country. In a civil and human society, each man is able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclination and abilities. But in a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color to fulfill both of those obligations. In South Africa, a man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. In South Africa, a man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people was inevitably ripped from his family and his home and was forced to live a life apart, a twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion. I did not in the beginning choose to place my people above my family, but in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligations as a son, a brother, a father, and a husband. Yes, let us know the meaning of this passage. Generally, in life, every man, that means you and me and every man, has twin obligations. Twin means 2 obligations. Obligations means responsibilities, commitments. 2 responsibilities are there to every man. 2 commitments are there. What are those commitments, sir? Obligations to his family, commitment to his family, responsibility of his family. That means his parents, his wife, his children. Exactly. And he has another obligation, that is another commitment was to his people, his community, his country. Generally, in a civil and human society, in a general society, each man is able to fulfill those 2 obligations. He can work for his family and he can work for the society. It's quite common. According to his own inclination and abilities. Inclination means natural behavior. He can take responsibility of his family. He can fulfill those commitments. No problem. in general society. It is all about all. But in a country like South Africa, there in South Africa, it is almost impossible for a man of my birth. My birth means Nelson Mandela's birth. Man of my birth and a color to fulfill both of those obligations. It was impossible to fulfill those obligations in a country like South Africa, especially who was born in his society. Right. In South Africa, a man of color means black person, who attempted to live as a human being, who wanted to live as a human being. If he wanted to live as a human being, if he wanted to live as a freedom man, if he wanted to live like that, he was punished and isolated. Isolated means make him alone. Leave him alone. Isolated means lonely life. If he wanted to lead a freedom life, he was punished. In South Africa, a man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people, that means if any man who wanted to serve for his people or for his community, was inevitably ripped from his family and his home and was forced to live a life apart. That means if a man wanted to try to serve for his people or for his society, was inevitably means unavoidably, was ripped means separated, ripped RIPPed, ripped means separated from his family and his home, and was forced to live a life apart, a lonely life, a twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion. He has to live like a rebel. A twilight existence means he has to lead a life in the dark. He could not meet his family members if he wanted to serve for the society. So what did he do then? I did not in the beginning choose to place my family above my people above my family. That means in the beginning, in the early life, he did not like to serve for the society. He gave more importance to his family first. But in attempting to serve my people here, my society, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligations as a son. I was unable to fulfill my commitment, my responsibility as a son, a brother, a father, and a husband when he started to serve for the society. He could not do that. So, next passage. I was born with the hunger to be free. I was born free in every way that I could know. Free to run in the fields near my mother's hut, free to swim in the clear stream that ran through my village, free to roast mealies under the stars and ride the broad backs of slow-moving bulls. As long as I obeyed my father and abided by the customs of my tribe, I was not troubled by the laws of man or God. This passage is all about his family life. When he lived with his family, how could he lead his life? See there. I was not born with the hunger to be free. By birth, I was a free man in my society, in my family, in my tribe. I had no trouble. I was born free in every way that I could know. Free to run in the fields near my mother's hut. Free to swim in the clear stream that ran through my village. I was free to roast mealies. Mealies means maize, that roast mealies. మొక్కజొన్నలు కాల్చుకుంటాం కదండి, that is to roast mealies under the stars. And free to ride the broad backs of slow moving bulls. I was so free when I was a child. As long as I obeyed my father and abided means obeyed by the customs of my tribe. When I followed the customs of my tribe, there was no problem. Till I obeyed my father and I obeyed my tribe. I was not troubled by the laws of man or God, or at any time I was not troubled. Till I obeyed my father and tribe. When I started serving the society, it was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion. And when I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken away from me, that I began to hunger for it. It was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion. Just illusion, something that appears to be real, but it is not real. Illusion. Oh, it's an illusion. Boyhood freedom was an illusion. When I came to know, when I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already taken from me away, that I began to hunger for my freedom, for it means my freedom. At first, as a student, I wanted, when I was in the college, that means as a student, when I was in the college, I wanted freedom only for myself. In the college, I should follow the rules of the white people. Then I wanted to freedom only for myself. The transitory freedoms of being able to stay out at night, read what I pleased and go where I chose. Transitory, that means not permanent. Temporary freedoms. In the college, just to stay out at night. I had no freedom to stay out at nights. I had no right to read what I pleased, what I wanted to read. I had no right to go where I chose. Later, as a young man, in Johannesburg, a place in South Africa, I yearned for the basic and honorable freedoms of achieving my potential, of earning my keep, of marrying and having a family. The freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. I earned for the basic and honorable freedoms of achieving my potential, of earning my keep, of marrying and having a family, the freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. That means the other did not have the plan to stand against the appetite. He lived his childhood like any normal child in South Africa. He only had to follow the rules set up by his father and the customs of his tribe. As soon as he grew up and he began to learn the facts as to how people of color are treated, he decided to stand against it. He had his urge for freedom from inside. Earlier, just for himself, staying out at night, reading the book, and later for having a basic life, not just for himself, but for everyone. In Johannesburg, they had to struggle for having a peaceful marriage. What a pitiful condition it is. They had to struggle for having a peaceful marriage, for having a peaceful family, and basic amenities which everyone had to access to, where law and order exists. For having these kind of peaceful family and peaceful amenities, basic amenities, they had to struggle. He had faced these kind of struggles. But then I slowly saw that not only was I not free, but my brothers, my sisters were not free. I saw that it was not just my freedom that was curtailed, but the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. That is when I joined the African National Congress, ANC. And that is when the hunger for my own freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom of my family. It was this desire for the freedom of my people to live their lives with dignity and the self-respect that animated my life, that transformed a frightened young man into a bold one, that drove a law-abiding attorney to become a criminal, that turned a family-loving husband into a man without a home, that forced a life-loving man to live like a monk. What are the changes? What are the changes? I am no more virtuous or self-sacrificing than the next man. But I found that I could not even enjoy the poor and limited freedoms I was allowed when I knew my people were not free. Freedom is indivisible. The chains on any one of my people were the chains on all of them. The chains on all of my people were the chains on me. Good passage it is. Let us read again. But then I slowly saw that not only I was not free, but my brothers and sisters were not free. I saw that it was not just my freedom that was curtailed. Curtailed means reduced. My freedom was not reduced, but the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. That is when I joined the African National Congress, and that is when the hunger for my own freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom of my people. It was this desire for the freedom of my people to live their lives with dignity and self-respect that animated my life, that animated my life. When I started fighting for my people, my life had changed like this. There was a transformation. Sorry. How? What kind of transformation it is? What kind of transformation it is? Transformation means change. A frightened young man into a bold one, first change. Frightening. He was very frightened when he was a child, and he became into a bold one. Scared to brave. Scared to brave. A liar to the one breaking the law. That means. Next one. That drove a law-abiding attorney to become a criminal. That means he always abide the law. He always liked to follow the law to become a criminal. He always loved law-abiding. He was law-abiding person, but he became a criminal. That turned a family-loving husband into a man without a home. He loved his family a lot. But when he started serving for his people, he became a man without a home. That forced a life-loving man to live like a monk. Monk means a person who led a lonely life. It was the knowledge. See there. I'm no more virtuous or self-sacrificing than the next man. But I found that I could not even enjoy the poor and limited freedoms I was allowed when I knew my people were not free. Yes, he came to know that he and his people have restricted freedom that made him into a selfless man as opposed to before. Freedom is indivisible. The chains on any one of my people were the chains on all of them. The chains on all of my people were the chains on me. So, according to him, freedom cannot be divided. Snatching it away from some was equivalent to taking it away from everyone, and that means taking it away from the other. That means Nelson Mandela. From Nelson Mandela. Right, next passage. I knew that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. Two persons are here. Oppressor, oppressed. A man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. He is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow-mindedness. I am not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom. Just as surely as I am not free when my freedom is taken from me. The oppressed and the oppressor alike are robbed of their humanity. Wow, what a passage it is. I know that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressor oppressed. Oppressor, a person who oppress others. Oppressed, a person who is being oppressed. It's called oppressed. That means who is being pressed. So, Nelson Mandela mentioned that the need to free the oppressor is as high as that of the oppressed, because the oppressor is bounded by the shackles of hatred. He has the weight of all the people who he has tormented, for he carries the curse of all of their families. For taking away someone else's freedom and making them a prisoner, he becomes a prisoner of his biasness. Thus, he is robbed of his humanity and need to be freed. So students, a man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. And he is locked behind the bars of, bars means jail. He is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow-mindedness, selfishness. Prejudice means strong dislike without any good reason, swartham. Prejudice and narrow-mindedness. I am not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom. Exactly, I am not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom. Just as surely as I am not free when my freedom is taken from me. The oppressed and the oppressor alike are robbed of their both are robbed of their humanities. What a wonderful speech it is. Very good speech. This is part 3, students. Once again, go through the text and write the answers to the worksheet, please. Thank you.